kind of hard on a nice day like today to remember what it was like back here in October.
About 3 days prior to the arrival of Sandy, we were tracking the storm and heard the devastating news just 24 hours before it.
The damage from Sandy was catastrophic compared to what we've seen before.
Basically, we were protected from the last bad storm, and we weren't protected from the worst storm, in New York history, and that's what happened here.
Hurricane Sandy was one of the costliest and most destructive disasters in the history of the United States. It devastated the New Jersey coastline and New York City, leaving hundreds of thousands with severely damaged homes and businesses.
Sandy was a pretty unique storm in the portfolio of hurricanes that we know about, because most of the hurricanes, when they get this far up the East Coast, start to turn out to sea. Sandy encountered very strong high pressure sitting over the North Atlantic, and when the hurricane tried to take that turn, that high pressure system forced Sandy back in towards New Jersey.
Just a short distance from here, you can see where the river is. This was all underwater. Fortunately, we didn't have a lot of water get into the building, just a little bit in the back, but we certainly lost power for 12 days. Our animal husbandry people sent out a note saying it felt very ironic to be saving fish from flooding, but that they were successful and we didn't lose any of our collection.
In the aftermath of this massive storm, communities are rebuilding. They are also looking at how to prevent future flood damage, assessing what mitigation strategies worked and where improvements can be made.
After Sandy, we saw very unique damage patterns from northern Ocean County, Maniloking, north across Manasquan Inlet into Seagirt. What we're learning is that in Seagirt there was a very large beach and dune system that limited the amount of water that could get through the dunes to the houses. In Bayhead there was a relic seawall from a past storm that had occurred in the 60s. Maniloking unfortunately had neither, and the storm surge was allowed to just propagate right through the community as if nothing was there.
Residents of coastal communities also have a responsibility to protect themselves from flood damage. In New Jersey and New York City, they are rebuilding to higher standards based on flood risk information provided by FEMA.
Neighbor, 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 gone. Now, no pilings, no pilings, no pilings, no pilings, and then you get to me and this guy, we're on pilings. So my question is, why would anybody build on anything but pilings?
Hurricane Sandy highlighted the critical importance of preparing for disasters. Community planning, flood control projects, and individual mitigation efforts helped to reduce the devastating effects of this major hurricane.
In 2009, we adopted our first hazard mitigation plan, our pre-disaster hazard mitigation plan. In that plan, there's prioritized projects that have been identified throughout the county and the municipalities. Some of those projects included the elevation of homes, acquisition of properties, bulkheadings being installed, and flood control valves being installed on rivers and lakes.
Mitigation has been, I think, the key to Cape May Point's survival over the years. Many, many years ago, what you're seeing right now behind me didn't exist.
I think it's really important that there's a layered approach of multiple things. You can have protection and hopefully stop the flooding altogether, but you should also have resilience if the flooding does happen, because there's never a level of protection that's as high as you might want.
Manasquan, we didn't have a lot of that stuff done prior to the storm. It actually took this storm to push people into actually realizing that raising the home is the way to go. And now that the next storm, they're gonna be prepared.
The advice that we would give to other coastal communities is make sure you have those plans in place, participate in the mitigation programs, identify those critical resources in those critical areas that you need to protect to sustain life and property in an event like this.
I'd say we were 80% prepared. I think there's still work to be done. I think we learned a lesson from this storm. I think the infrastructure that's in place is on point. I think we're in a great position there. But I think you always have to go back and reevaluate your people, your checklist, to make sure that you know going into the storm exactly what needs to be done and walk through that process, a couple days out.
As another hurricane season approaches, communities hit by Hurricane Sandy continue to rebuild and to prepare. Lessons learned from Sandy are already being applied to make homes and businesses safer, stronger, and more resilient to coastal flood damage.
We are working very hard to rebuild the shoreline.
We will definitely be prepared for the next hurricane.
Planning in advance is the key to survival.
And the lessons learned out of this are that we really need to push our personal and family preparedness to be prepared for these catastrophic type events that, seem to be on the horizon for us as we continue to move forward here.
FEMA has developed a series of recovery advisories that offer suggestions for mitigating future flood damage. For more information on these advisories, as well as coastal flooding and rebuilding efforts in New Jersey and New York City, visit region2coastal.com.